News media is something that we see every day. We get our news from a variety of different places, whether it's a nationwide news network or your local news channel. The network you tune into can give you lots of different information. It can tell you who is winning an election or which high school teams in your district are going to state. It is important to know where your news is coming from and where they get their sources and how biased they are. In a poll given by Gallup News in 2017, 66% of people currently agree most news media do not do a good job of letting people know the facts and opinions. Only 32% think that news media is good at separating facts from opinions. Knight Foundation did a survey on how U.S. adults perceive bias and inaccuracy in news reportings. Americans believe 62% of news seen on television, read on newspapers, and heard on the radio is biased. Media bias is everywhere, and it is important to know how to discern objective reporting from biased reporting. Today I will be telling you about lots of different kinds of biases, the political parties that can influence you, and the way to detect bias in biased news reportings. The amount of media bias that we have today is incredible. But when people think about media bias, they may not know the difference between damaging bias and ideological bias. Noble magazine defines damaging bias as misrepresenting facts, suppressing facts, or just lying. Ideological bias has more to do with endorsements rather than misrepresenting facts. An example of ideological bias is if a conservative news network endorses a Republican presidential candidate. Even after knowing the difference between these two biases, it can still be difficult to know whether a news network is honest in their reportings. According to Gallup News, 44% of people say they can think of a source that reports news objectively. The University of Michigan Library gives a resource that can help with deciding which media is biased and how biased they are. This source is All Sides. All Sides has a patented bias rating system to classify news sources on the left, center, or right-leaning. This includes crowdsourcing, surveys, internal research, and third-party sources. All Sides has the BBC, The Hill, USA Today, and a few others as the most central news media. Although there are many different ways of knowing if a network is biased, our political orientation can strongly influence who we believe to be the most biased. In the survey from Knight Foundation, they also found that Democrats see almost all news media as unbiased except for Fox News, Breitbart News, Mother Jones, The Huffington Post, and Vox. On the other side of the spectrum, Republicans see all news media as biased except for Fox News and The Wall Street Journal. Along with politics, age can be a factor into what we believe is biased. The poll with Gallup News found that Americans aged 50 years and older who named objective news source identify Fox News as that source. Those younger than 50 are about as likely to name CNN, NPR, and Fox News. Since 1986, Fair.org has been documenting and criticizing media bias and censorship. Fair.org gives a few tips on how to discern media bias from objective reporting. First, looking at the sources being cited is key. How broad is the source list? Do they use a lot of similar sources, or do they have a variety of sources? Also, do they have mostly government-sponsored sources or public sources? Then you can look at whose point of view the news is being reported in. Do they focus on those who are being most affected, or do they only focus on their target audience? Lastly, their lack of context and details. Many stories will have a headline that has a specific story, and then once you get to the article, it doesn't touch up on that headline as much, and that means that if they leave out those important details, that they are biased. This is due to the network's values not being lined up with the facts, and therefore they do not want to share the facts with their target audience. In conclusion, media bias is all around us today. Whether it's the left or right side of the spectrum, there is always some type of bias. The media we view can strongly influence the way we look at other types of media. With the increase of media bias, it is important to know the difference between objective reporting, and biased reporting. We cannot completely change media bias, but we can choose what to believe. Instead of only watching news that sides with your political party, I invite you to be more willing to watch and read news from multiple different news sites so that you will be able to have a broader perspective of what other people feel and think. You can't ignore the media bias that's increasing, but there are ways to fight it. If you notice media bias, you can always reach out to that network. Making a call or writing a letter expressing your concern can make a huge difference. The mission of All Sides is to free people from filter bubbles so they can better understand the world and each other. Since I believe that their mission is so important, I have printed out their bias rating chart, and as you leave today, you can take one home with you. And I hope that the chart opens your eyes to new perspectives and helps you decide what to view and believe. Thank you.